think we might be live.
Liveys.
We've got some green lights over here. Just
Excellent.
wait for it to accept it over here on the YouTube.
Well, my time on my laptop's not syncing up, so we won't watch that for the next...
The Windows time syncing service is always crap. Like, it never works.
Yeah, well, the reason why that video went early that time was I had a problem with my motherboard's BIOS, where like the timer kept going out of sync. So, yeah, that's I had to keep manually resetting the clock at least once a day, or it ended up minutes out after a few days. So that's what happened there. But anyway, this is the start of our live stream where we sort of do nothing for a bit.
Yeah.
Well, Tim sends it out.
Yeah, because we're using the...
It'd be so good if there was a feature where you could go live to get the link and everything, but then hit an actual start.
Yeah, that would be a lot better.
Because with videos, you can get the link before they're live. So
yeah, I just wanted to see, like, what's the situation with this Patreon live stream option, but it seems to be...
Does it work?
Seems to work.
I'll go to our Patreon page and actually I probably... You'll have to Skype me the thing, actually, because I can't log in.
Oh, are you on Discord? Because I'm just going to...
Yes. Oh, but... Okay, yep, that's fine. Alright. If you click on the picture, it just opens a picture. Doesn't take you to the video. It just makes the picture bigger.
So yeah, it seems to be working.
Yep, I've got no audio on this, but hopefully the audio is fine.
Yeah, the microphone seems to be working.
Okay.
At least that's what it says.
It's not doing the gargled audio thing.
Oh, I'd hope not. But yeah, soon we should probably get some people in and see what they say. Just publish this on the old Twitter as well.
You published it in Discord?
Yep.
Oh, it's an announcement, so I got it. Come on, guys. We've got 5 people watching. Cool. We've probably peaked. Let's get into it.
Yep. 5 people.
4. Damn it, I knew we'd peaked. Alright, well, might as well get started. What have you been up to, Tim?
What have I been up to? Oh, not much. No, it's been very busy with all the games.
Yes.
Lots of games that have come out that we're sort of sorting through at the moment. We've obviously done Metro Exodus to death. I still want to cover DLSS in that game. Anthem is canned, I think, from both of us.
Yeah, I didn't really have much intention of doing a whole lot with that just because of the 5-game lockout. I can't be bothered doing that anymore.
Because EA sucks. The game's getting terrible reviews. Everyone says it sucks.
Oh,
so
okay. I hadn't followed it at all.
Probably
won't even bother benchmarking it with it, and I'll just pretend it didn't exist.
Yeah, I think it's one of those games I think still a lot of people end up playing because of the hype. But it seems like most people that are playing it aren't enjoying it very much.
And it was really weird because the Apex Legends is free and it just launched, and it seems like...
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying the two are the same type of game, but yeah, it's weird that you would go buy that if you had Apex Legends to play.
I'm pretty sure the Apex Legends EA had no involvement with in its development, which is why it turned out really awesome.
Yes. Yeah, I read a few interviews with the developers. It was Respawn, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And yeah, they kind of said they kept EA out of the loop on a lot of stuff, basically, so they couldn't screw it up.
Yeah.
So that was kind of funny.
EA seems like that company where everything has to be to like marketing and, you know, investor deadlines and stuff. So it just seems like with Anthem, they're like, guys, we really need to get this game out immediately. So whatever you've got now will be good enough, and we'll fix it later.
Yeah, it's so bizarre that they keep doing that kind of thing because it's got to the point now where gamers don't accept it. Reviewers are starting to can them.
And the problem is, like, the review, it doesn't matter if they fix it later. The review that is when it launches is permanent. Like, the score that's given, what's on Metacritic and everything, which people look up later, is kind of what shapes the game for the future. And if you launch a game like Anthem that is broken and sucks, and it gets bad reviews, then it's going to be problematic for the future of the game, no matter how good they make it.
Yeah, there's very few games that make a really good comeback. Like For Honor was a game that launched that was pretty average to begin with, and apparently it just kept getting better and better. I think it's still getting better from what I hear from people who play it, but I
think Ubisoft's doing all right with that sort of thing. They did a similar thing with Rainbow Six.
And The Division as well. The Division was a massive disappointment, and we sort of all gave it a bit of a hard time. Then I think it was about 3 or 4 months later, they apparently revamped it, but I had no interest in going back and playing it again at that point.
No, I never played it, actually.
But yeah, Carl says, I'm enjoying Anthem just fine. I think people had certain expectations about it. I went in with 0, which is probably a good thing to do.
Yeah, I would say
Like I said,
so.
I haven't looked at it yet. I just haven't had time.
But yeah, because of all the games that are coming out, and obviously the Division 2 launches in a few weeks, so we kind of don't want to be still looking at the backlog of games that release this month when there's that and Devil May Cry coming out. Still going to check out Far Cry New Dawn. You've already started benchmarking that, at least
Yes,
for your...
it's exactly the same as Far Cry 5, but you never did a Far Cry 5 optimization guide, so yeah, it makes sense to look
at that. And then, yeah, they'll be moving on just to the newer games that are coming out. With Anthem canned, probably won't look at Dirt Rally, even though that's getting good reviews at the moment.
I'll
the new one.
probably try and squeeze in a benchmark video on that one. So
yeah, that's probably a really fun looking game. I always like the Dirt games. So.
Well, I'll be replacing Dirt 4 with it, I would say, so it makes sense to
I think
benchmark it.
The general racing game community tends to like the rally ones more than the...
Yep.
Like people tended to like Dirt Rally more than Dirt 4.
Yep.
So...
Even though they're all rally games. But
yeah.
Anyway.
Sim versus arcade, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, and obviously Crackdown 3 we already said we're not going to look at all because Windows Store... It's like Windows Store, bad reviews. Yeah. What I've seen looks like it sucks. So.
Yep.
Yeah,
The Division 2, unfortunately, while I'm super keen to test that game, I'm going to be away on holidays for a week.
Yeah. Holidays. Is that a thing that we can do?
Well, I'm going to try it and see what it's all about. People talk about them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to...
Where are you going for your holiday? So everyone can stalk you and...
I'm going up north onto the coast. So I'm staying... I've hired a house for the week with some mates, and we're going kayak fishing for a whole week.
That's that holiday.
Yep, that's that holiday. We're going after the Marlin.
Ditch your family, have fun with your mates. Yep.
So, yeah, it should be really good fun. I'll take a sort of a GoPro type device, and hopefully if we hook into something, I'll be able to get some good footage for you.
Yeah, well, it should be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking really forward to that.
Yeah, that's probably enough about our... What else has been going on? The RTX stuff. It's something I wanted to talk about because...
Might as well start into that, then I'll sit back and relax for a bit. I've got to wake up.
Yeah, I think... I mean, it isn't unusual to get negative comments on things, especially when you're sort of being negative about something, but I think it would be interesting to talk about how... Basically, since the start of the whole NVIDIA RTX product line, we've made a lot of negative videos about various NVIDIA things, whether that was... the RTX 2080 and 2080 Ti, the RTX 2070 reviews were fairly negative, and then it moved into like Battlefield 5 ray tracing was negative. The initial DLSS thing was fairly mixed. Battlefield 5 DLSS was mixed. The updates were mixed. Metro, I was reasonably positive on, but it still isn't worth using. Then there was GameWorks in Metro, DLSS in Metro. It seems like across most of those products, excluding the 1660 Ti and the RTX 2060, which were reasonable, we've made a lot of videos with various degrees of slamming NVIDIA for certain things, and that's led to some people commenting on our videos being like, obviously at this point, we must be paid to hate NVIDIA or something, or maybe our biases for... we've seen RTX, so now we're just going to think everything RTX sucks. It seems like we're getting a lot of those comments, which is, I guess reasonable for some people to come to that conclusion if they've only seen our negative videos, but it's not really the case. I think all of our content on those things has been fairly reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing that comes up all the time. I know you wanted to discuss it because it is a thing at the moment, but as I sort of touched on with you last time, there's always going to be something. So whether it's like we were hating on AMD's FX series for years on end, and therefore we were paid by Intel to hate on an obviously not a good CPU series, and if other people like Gamers Nexus or whoever else in the industry was saying that RTX is pretty good, it's got potential, it's good, it's worth having, whatever. If they were positive about it and we were just really going against the grain, really, really overly negative, then that might be a reason to sort of raise an eyebrow and think what's going on with these guys. But I don't think we're saying anything that most others aren't. So there's that. And I think most of you guys agree that things like ray tracing just haven't really delivered. I mean, Tim has his own thoughts on all that sort of stuff. DLSS, to me, this is my opinion, not speaking for Tim, but I personally think it is a pointless technology, and I don't think it's ever going to be really worthwhile having. I can see where it gets to a point where it's as good as upscaling, or I don't know. Tim's done a lot more testing, so you'll have more to say on it than I do.
Well, do you want to talk about DLSS?
Sure.
It's interesting to me how the whole DLSS thing's come about, because we've seen in the console space there's been a lot of development, not on just very basic resolution upscaling, but doing things like checkerboard rendering and dynamic resolution.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, dynamic resolution is where you target a certain frame rate and quality settings, and then it changes the resolution to keep that frame rate fixed. So in less intense scenes, it'll be running native res, and then when it gets intense, it down samples. And then checkerboard rendering is obviously, there's a whole bunch of different techniques, but it basically just renders a certain number of pixels in a grid array, and then it attempts to put in the rest of the data using sampling techniques. And personally, I think that the way that that's working on the consoles at the moment, especially checkerboard rendering, seems to be pretty good. Like, especially from a TV viewing distance, obviously a console like the PS4 Pro is not capable of running games at native 4K, so they have to do all these things. And it seems to work really well. So I kind of wonder why NVIDIA spent all this time developing DLSS when they could have spent time working out how to get those techniques running even better for PC gamers. Because there's different considerations for PC. You're viewing it closer, so artifacts are more noticeable.
Yeah, I think you're trying to be reasonable about the situation. They don't have any interest in doing that because they want to have a unique technology that will do it, which is their tensor cores.
I think they could have made up some way to get checkerboard rendering working on tensor cores only. Maybe.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I mean,
yeah,
let's just say, for example, that was possible. I'm not sure whether technically they could, but that would have been a much better way to do what they're trying to do with DLSS, and it potentially wouldn't have been as restrictive, because obviously with DLSS there's all these like restrictions on if you have a really powerful card like a 2080 Ti, you can't use it at 1080p because they lock you out, because the processing time for DLSS is longer than the processing time for the frame itself.
Yep.
So why bother using it? So when dynamic resolution scaling or checkerboard rendering doesn't have any restrictions, and then NVIDIA comes up and makes a technology that doesn't work any better than that and has all these restrictions and only runs on them current cards, you can't use it on Pascal, which isn't even a competitor's product, it's their own product. It's kind of like, why did they spend all this time doing this? Because it doesn't even matter if the tech is good, because
that's what I was saying.
If there's another tech that's as good as it, which it seems to be the case now, it seems like they've just wasted all this time and effort. And the only thing that they've got is a selling point for people that don't know any better or haven't looked into it or stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's basically marketing is what they're using it for, because even if DLSS was great, it looked really cool. It really improved the visual quality of the game like Jensen said it would, and it improved performance, so it was like some magic button that you pushed. Even if it was that, it's, 3 games now?
Yeah.
3 games over 6 months or so.
Yeah. I think Anthem is supposed to support it, but right now it doesn't.
Yeah, support will certainly improve with stuff like this, but it's still not a great reason to buy into the first gen. And then ray tracing is a whole nother kettle of fish, that one.
Ray tracing is completely different, because I think people already knew that with ray tracing that there'd be a pretty heavy performance hit. So I think when people went in, they were kind of expecting it to not be particularly useful for every case. But with DLSS, I think a lot more people got, I won't, maybe sucked in's too harsh, but certainly they believed what NVIDIA was saying, that it would be a magic button that improves performance at no cost.
Yeah.
But I think the reason why a lot of people thought that, and I've been talking to a few people in the Discord about this, is that no one uses resolution scaling on PC. Everyone wants to play at the native res. So if you have a 1440p screen, you want to play at 1440p. You bought the screen. You don't want to downsample it to some lower resolution and then hope that it looks as good. People just click play at my screen's resolution and that's it. Whereas really, if you're playing at 4K, it's always been possible to play at a little small reduction in resolution and you won't tell. It's very, very similar. So the fact that no one's ever tried this, and now suddenly people are trying DLSS and they've clicked the button, it looks largely the same. They're going, oh, this looks amazing. Whereas because they've never tried the other technique available to them,
yes,
they kind of are left with this impression that makes it seem like that tech is the first thing that's ever done this, which I guess is kind of fueling that sort of comments that we've seen about DLSS and all that. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. And yeah, I think Scooby Dooby also says here they didn't know how good it was until they actually implemented it into games. I think, yeah, there was some problems there with the development for DLSS, that they were obviously what they were trying it on in their test schemes didn't really translate to games all that well.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. But when your CEO is standing up there with a month pre-order saying that DLSS is just this amazing technology that just makes the RTX series unbelievably good, you push a button, it's better than native 4K, because he did say that, didn't he?
I think he did say, because they showed in the initial, they were using the Infiltrator demo, and they were comparing native 4K with TAA anti-aliasing to
I was sure
DLSS,
they
they were.
From memory, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they were hinting that it looked better than 4K, or they flat out said it. But either way, they were giving people the impression that it was at least as good, so there was no reduction in visual quality due to how intelligent the AI was and all that. And then you would get a whatever percentage performance bump they were showing, whether it was 30% or whatever. And that's how they were selling the technology. And then you get it and you're like, this kind of sucks. So, and in Metro, it's okay. It's just another thing. It's like not amazing. It's definitely not better than native 4K. And it's definitely not better than resolution scaling.
I mean, it's not, at the same time, it's not bad. It's like if you turn it on, unlike with Battlefield 5, in Metro, you're not going to be disappointed. You're going to be like, this is fine.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean...
And if you didn't know better, you'd be like, this is fantastic. This is why I bought this card, was for this DLSS feature.
Exactly. And I guess, like, I've also seen comments of people being like, yeah, but, you know, DLSS is a one-click button. I don't want to go and create a custom resolution. I don't want to fiddle with the scaling settings. I just want to click the button. I guess my opinion is that a game studio has the option to include that button if they wanted to.
Yes.
They could have a performance button.
Yes.
You turn it on, it runs at an 80% resolution scale, it adds a sharpening filter, and it'll look exactly the same as DLSS. They could have done that.
Yeah.
And it would work across a lot more resolutions and cards, and you know, you could run on Pascal, you could run on AMD cards. They could have done that if they wanted to.
Yeah, and the other side of that argument is it's like, okay, cool, you have that button you can push in that one game. It's not like you've bought this card and you can push that button in all games, or it's a control panel
it's not like a driver
feature.
setting, something you could use for everything.
So you have to rely on the you know, what if you really enjoy, I don't know, Resident Evil 2 or something?
Yeah.
Like, it's no good to you there, but you can use resolution scaling there.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, I've seen a comment here, don't you think down the road it can get better? And I think that, yes, it could get better. I don't think it'll come in terms of training. I think training is going to give you diminishing returns after a certain point. Like when you're trying to upscale from 1440p, there's only so many pixels that can be fed into the algorithm for it to decide what to do with it. Mm-hmm. And if you don't really know what that 4K image actually looks like, because you can't train the AI for every single position and scene that you could get in a game. It's not possible.
Yeah.
So the upscaling can get better, but the AI is going to be limited and give you diminishing returns over a certain point. Where I think the benefit's going to come is when the card has more tensor cores, so it can process the AI faster. That's when you're going to get the improvement.
It's kind of, I was going to say something else, but we'll talk. It's kind of a weird thing, because what if you just didn't have those tensor cores and you just had more CUDA cores?
Yeah, and that's the thing you have to wonder.
So then you can just run native and have the same performance. So it's a bit bizarre. It's kind of a strange trade-off. Like, imagine how powerful the RTX 2080 would be, or 2080 Ti, if the tensor cores were just CUDA cores. Basically, if it was like the GTX 1660 Ti, so it just had some dedicated FP16.
Yeah, you would have to wonder about that.
And it's just that whole thing about, will it get better? I mean, maybe. I personally don't think it will get better than upscaling. Maybe it will, but if you're, it's kind of a different situation now. If you have all this knowledge at your disposal, you have all this information about the games that have ray tracing, how well it works. You have information about DLSS, how well it works. So right now you can make an informed purchase. So there's you've sort of got to come at this from two different angles. So if you're someone buying an RTX 2080 now, that it's kind of fine. You look at that stuff and you go, well, it's either this or a Radeon 7, and you can make your,
Yeah.
But the reason why we were so harsh on it initially was because you guys were being sold what's turned out to be a lie so far.
Yeah.
You had people were pre-ordering these things because they were promised this amazing DLSS technology. They were promised graphics like they'd never seen before with RTX, DXR enabled. And that's why we were harsh initially, because we sort of thought, well, hang on, they're making all these promises on stuff that's going to have to be implemented down the track, and people are buying these now, wanting to turn RTX on and see how cool it looks. So...
Yeah, I mean, I think both ray tracing and DLSS will get better, but it won't be with this generation of cards. It will be with a future generation, and not with DLSS, but certainly with ray tracing. That's a feature that eventually you'd expect AMD would do something with. Mm-hmm. And I think by the time that ray tracing it has the performance, it's not such a performance hit for the quality, then that's the time when, it'll be worth looking more closely at what these cards can do in terms of ray tracing. Is an NVIDIA card fast an AMD card for ray tracing? That's when that will become more of a discussion. Whereas right now, as you say, it's like people have been sold this thing that doesn't really deliver.
Yeah, I think people have to understand, us as reviewers, we review, and we've said this tons of times on the channel, the facts and figures.
Yeah, and what's available right now.
Yeah, and that's
not
why
about future promises.
Yeah, and we've always had problems with the AMD fans with Ryzen, and we recommended the 8700K for gaming, and they're like, but the 2700X has more cores, so at some point in time it will be faster. So, it's a bit more complicated than that, maybe not, but it's just an example I'm giving that we recommend what we can prove is the best, either best performing or best value option right now. Not what, maybe if this happens or that happens.
Yeah.
So, there's that. I saw a comment back up here. Daniel said, has anyone actually paid for their own 2080 Ti and actually been happy with their purchase? The 2080 Ti is for guys, obviously, with lots of money. You're not budgeting for a 2080 Ti. You're like, I want that because I want the best. And the 2080 Ti is incredibly impressive. It's an awesome card. You're not going to buy that and go, oh, I wish I had have just bought a 2080 or a Radeon 7. You're going to go, I'm glad I bought this thing.
If you have a 4K display, like it's
they're phenomenally good. I'm not justifying the price, but NVIDIA are obviously selling these cards and targeting people who just have I don't care money.
Yeah.
I want that because it's the fastest, and I want that $2,000 monitor to go with it because it's the best. Yeah. That's really who's being targeted there. And yeah, if I had RTX 2080 Ti money and I was happy to blow it on one and I bought one, I wouldn't be sitting there going, oh, I regret everything. Yeah. It's a phenomenally good card, and the performance is just mind-blowingly good. The price is horrible, but
I think the card that people would have been most disappointed in is the RTX 2070, personally.
Yes.
Buying that and then have the 2060 come out.
The 2070 was a horrible value proposition. It wasn't, that was not good. The only good thing about the 2070 was all the flack and poor reception they had with the 2080 and 2080 Ti release. They made sure there were affordable or MSRP 2070s right off the bat.
Yeah.
So at least there was that. You didn't pay like, $900 for one and then have a $350 card come in. And so there's that. I haven't really kept up with the chat. There's a lot. How many people?
Yeah, I think someone he was mentioning, I forget the comment, but the RTX and DLSS and Tensor Core features are all designed for the pro market. These are not... Mm-hmm. NVIDIA isn't in the business to design gaming GPUs. As much as gamers would love NVIDIA to focus on gaming GPUs, all the money is in the data center, in cloud markets, where the margins are like insane.
Yeah, sure. So, and like with you touching on ray tracing, the other thing is, again, I've sort of told you guys why we were negative about ray tracing, because it was the way it was pitched, it was the way the product was launched that we didn't like, and that's why we were harsh on it initially. Now it's just a feature, and it's like, is it worth using or not? And Tim's analysis has been, okay, it's pretty good in Metro Exodus, but I still wouldn't use it. And I think my opinion on it was even harsher than yours. But it's not like we hate ray tracing completely. It's just
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad for Nvidia to explore that realm of graphics. It's not. It's never been bad for a game to include that really punishing feature that looks really good, because no one's been forced to run with ray tracing, or no one's been forced to use 8 times MSAA when that feature was available.
Yes.
But if you had the GPU horsepower, you're happy with the performance that you'll get. You may be happy running the game at 40 FPS rather than 60 or 80. Then that's fine. You can click it on, and it does look, especially in Metro, not as much in Battlefield, but in Metro, in my opinion, it looks better. So it's just that feature where it's a taxing feature, like there's been in games for years.
Yeah.
But again, the problem is it being sold and marketed, and again, it'll improve over time. But it's not like ray tracing makes the graphics worse. I mean, in Battlefield 5, there's the noise issues, which I expect over time will get better.
No, it just makes the performance worse.
It just makes the performance worse.
It's definitely better. In Metro, a lot of the time, obviously, it only is very noticeable in certain areas of the game, and a lot of the time, I couldn't tell whether I had it on or not without actually, knowing whether I had it on or not. But it's the performance hit, obviously, is what makes it really kills it for me, because it was, I can't remember the exact figures. I included them in my benchmark video, but it was huge. And for the, I think it's on kind of quality difference.
Yeah.
And if you stop and find like somewhere where it's really going to make a big impact, you go, that looks heaps better. But while you're playing through the game, it doesn't enhance it like I was saying to you, like a next level shadow quality or lighting quality.
Yeah, I think the real advantage will come when ray tracing is able to do all of the reflections, shadowing, and global illumination in the one. Mm-hmm. Because right now we're getting games where you get one of those 3, but really it's when the entire lighting system can be replaced by ray tracing that we'll start to see the real benefit, because then everything will look just much more natural and superior. So, yeah, again, going back to the pro features though, NVIDIA is not going to develop a gaming specific GPU for high-end product. For something like a 1660 Ti, then it makes more sense to cut stuff out and design that to be affordable so that they can not only sell that in desktop cards, but for laptops, which is a big market for them as well. Whereas at the high end, when you develop a high-end card that you're going to sell for a lot of money, you want to be able to sell it not just for $1,000 in a consumer card, but for $5,000 in a pro card. And for pros, they are going to get benefits out of features like accelerated ray tracing for rendering, for having the tensor cores for data center processing for AI. So that's why they developed this product. And it would have been awesome to have that product, as you say, that's remove the tensor and RT cores and replace that with CUDA cores. Realistically, though, they weren't going to do that.
No, well, evidently.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's that really. I think a lot of the guys are saying our opinions and all this stuff and what the content we've produced has been perfectly fine. Our opinions have been easy to justify. And yeah, I know, there's a lot of NVIDIA fans that aren't too happy with our coverage, but we're not really saying anything that nobody else is.
Yeah, it's not.
Rather.
It's not really groundbreaking to say that something like ray tracing hasn't been what we expected. Or what NVIDIA had said.
Well, it was what we expected, because the demos they showed on their announcement, all the media that were there, like Steve from Gamers Nexus, Paul from Paul's Hardware, they were all sort of like, it looks okay, but the performance hit, and it's like 60, it's struggling to do 60 FPS at 1080p.
Yeah. And
that was early implementations, but it didn't look promising initially. So.
Yeah. So, I think, it's... There's always when we're making these pieces of content for anything, and we're being negative about something, we always think about are we being too harsh on this particular thing? When I said in Battlefield 5 the DLSS sucks and is complete garbage, was that too harsh? And I look back on that video, and even now that we've seen it in Metro, which is better, I still think that for that game, my comment saying that it sucks, when at that time you can see in the video what it looks like.
You have to honestly call it as you see it.
Yeah.
You can't sugarcoat it or water it down, because...
And I think, we always go in to anything with sort of a clean slate. We want to evaluate it on its merits. But at the same time, when going into anything, we sort of have our sort of expectations for how something is going to be. Like we look at the marketing, we're seeing what NVIDIA is saying about something. We sort of have an assumption of how something might work. So for me, I was expecting DLSS and Battlefield 5 to be more like the demo, which was a bit pointless. It wasn't amazing, but it was okay. And when I got into the game and I started playing, I was like, wow, this really sucks. So I think that is where some of those opinions come from, is sort of, we're not going in as just a robot and testing stuff and being like, have no opinion of how anything's going to be and just crunch the data. We always have a sort of idea of what something might be like. And for me, with that feature, it was like, yeah, this really sucks. So that sort of shapes how those things come out. Same thing with sort of the Max-Q laptop thing. The Pascal laptops, they weren't equivalent to desktops, but they were reasonably close in a good laptop. And then with the Turing products, they announced that they didn't talk anything about how they downclocked it more. You get them in an RTX 2070, performs well below a desktop card, like much more than a Pascal card. And to me, that's disappointing.
Yeah. It's pretty simple. Like I said, we have to do the best job we can. We have to report what we see and the information as accurately as we possibly can to you guys, because we're not trying to pull the wool over your eyes. Like if we say one thing and then Steve from Gamers Nexus says another thing, and how many tech channels are there again?
So many.
If all the other guys say, or even a good number of them say something that's conflicting, then we've obviously made a mistake or we've got it wrong. So
yeah,
it's not you guys watch. We know you watch and read. You watch many different YouTube channels. You read many different tech sites. So you'll be the first guys to pull us up in the Discord chat if we've said, if I said the GTX 1660 Ti was great value and it really wasn't, I'm sure we would hear about it from you guys because you would watch other people that showed its true value.
Yeah, and I think as well, what I like to think is one of the good things about our videos is that all the data is in there. So you don't necessarily have to listen to our conclusion on any particular topic. You could ignore us saying the 1660 Ti is good value if you've seen the data and the games that you play, it's actually slower than a 1070 or slower than a competitor's product.
Sure, but even that can be manipulated. So you go and compare that to a few different other trusted sources.
Exactly.
And it's like, what's a trusted source? Well, it's someone who's proven to be reliable over the years. And I'm sure you guys have your favorite tech sites and YouTubers, and you know who's proven to be reliable over the years. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think as well with something like a GPU review, you can make the data's more definitive because there's just the performance numbers, the price. You can make conclusions based on that. With the quality setting videos, it's obviously very different because the quality aspect is subjective. The performance is obviously still data and figures, but the quality, you might notice, you might not notice. And I tend to find, just reading the comments, that for some things, I find that I notice things a lot more easily than some people do. Some people see the scenes and they see no difference. Whereas on some things, I sort of say there's a difference, but it's not particularly large. And some people say that was a massive difference. So that's why I think, I expect, and what's been happening is that tends to be more critical comments on those videos because people have their own opinions. And the reason why I provide all the comparisons is so that you can make your own decision about what you want to do.
Yep.
So I'm not just going and saying, turn this feature off because it looks bad, because, people want an opinion from us. But at the same time, you can see the data there. You can, and to be honest, if you're seeing those comparisons and you can't tell the difference between Ultra and Medium, why are you playing on Ultra? Play it on Medium.
Well, that's right. That's that information for you. Yeah. If you've determined that makes no difference, then you would definitely run it on Medium, and happy days for you.
Yeah.
So that's the whole point of the content.
Yeah, pretty much. It's to do both worlds, to provide you with the information that you need to make your own decision, but also you can get an opinion from me if you don't want to look closely or you're not as interested in, poring over the data yourself. You can just use my settings and have a pretty good gaming experience.
Yep.
So,
yeah, probably on some questions, whatever, because no one really in the Discord has accused us of anything, or none of
No,
our
no,
Patreon
it's
members.
it's
But
just
we
in
wanted to
general.
make-
You know, we read Reddit, we read the comments.
Yeah. So
Um,
yeah, if any of you guys have problems, bring it to us. But I mean, and it's better. I like to do, if you do have a problem, do it in like the public section of Discord. So like in the questions, so we can address it for everyone, not just.
Yeah.
That's kind of the point of Discord, is for it to be a closed community. No one's going to attack you if you have a difference of opinion. Like, because that's not allowed. You're allowed to give your opinion. You're allowed to disagree with us, and we can work through it. And
yeah, we're not going to get butthurt if you.
well, that's the whole point of the Discord, because even if we disagree with you, we'll still think about it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you guys keeping us, you
And
know,
we may agree on certain
in check
things.
is the
Yeah,
whole point of this community.
That is the whole point. We review
Yeah.
we review things for you guys. We 100% do not accept or have ever accepted money from AMD, Nvidia, or Intel. Like,
Yeah.
we will not do. AMD wanted to do a sponsorship thing with us late last year. Not paid content. They just wanted to advertise with us some stuff, and no, so we can't do it. We don't do any advertisements. No money can ever change hands with us with those three companies. That's just how we do it. So, so there's no conflicting interest there or anything like that. And it's an easy way to go about it. We really don't need to take money from any of those companies, because we have, you know, a lot of other good offers, and we have the Patreon community supporting us. So, the reason we do it is not. Steve from Gamers Nexus has talked about this as well. The reason we do this isn't for money. It's good that we have enough money to survive, so we can do what we love doing. But we do it because we enjoy it.
Yeah,
and
it's a great job. Like,
Yeah,
it's great.
we love. We love putting in the hours and the work to give you guys the best information and content we can. If I just wanted money, and Steve from Gamers Nexus said this, it's like, I've had quite a few job offers that I'd be making more money than I am now, working half as much. And yeah, Steve has said the same thing on his videos in public. And if I just wanted money and I wanted to put my feet up, I'd go work for one of these companies.
Yeah,
Like,
pretty much.
I could go get a job tomorrow with them, but I'm not interested. I like being able to do whatever. Like, I don't know what videos I'm doing next week. I have an idea of one or two, but you guys, there was a couple of, we'll get to it in a moment, but someone requested a video, and I'm going to do that next week because it interests me. I want to do it. So, and it involves Intel, AMD, and Nvidia. So yeah, it's good that none of them have a say in it. We can, and that's the cool thing about with the DLSS or the ray tracing or whatever. Like, we gave Nvidia glowing Pascal coverage for the most part. We only slammed them on the DDR4 1030. I think everything else was glowing there.
Yeah, I think it's maybe as well the naming the 1063 gigabyte. But
yeah, we didn't
extent.
drag that out and give them too much of a hard time on that. We touched on it, but at times it was a good value product, so it wasn't. It was misleading. It was crappy and all that, but we didn't drag it on because it did, for most of its life, represent good value. So that's why we didn't dig into that too much. Oh, and the GPP. But that was the end of Pascal, really. Anyway, is there any questions here, or do we want to address the ones in Discord?
Oh, there is something else I wanted to talk about. The Vega 56 pricing thing that happened with the 1660 Ti launch.
Yep.
So basically what happened with this is that Nvidia launched the 1660 Ti at $280 US, but a day before or a few days before,
It was like a day. Yeah, I think it was even the same day, but
Yeah.
because of the time zone difference, like.
yeah.
But anyway,
So with that, AMD reduced the price, or not necessarily AMD, but there were price cuts for Vega 56 down to $280.
it was a fire sale.
Yeah, and the same in Europe. It was down to like 280 euros or even 250 pounds, I think, which made it a very attractive price there. And so what happened is, because that happened right on the 1660 Ti launch, a few people, a few creators, a few reviewers were thinking that was either a permanent price cut or was indicative of price cuts to come.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them jumped the gun. I think everyone's to blame on that one.
And as well, we got a lot of comments on that day one coverage about, but the Vega 56 was $280.
Yep.
So I think interested to hear your thoughts on this. But
Well, did you see I covered it in last night's video quite in
Actually,
depth.
I watched last night's video.
You're my worst fan.
Yeah, I know, right?
No, I covered this in quite a bit of detail in yesterday's video for about 10 minutes. So thanks for watching.
Yeah, no worries, mate.
Basically, these distributors, retailers, so someone like Newegg, they will have to order a certain amount of cards to sell. And they've got to order that based on how many they'll sell. In the case of the 1660 Ti, they would have got every single last one they could possibly get allocation for.
Yep.
But they get given samples ahead of time like reviewers. So the guys at PC K-Ski often get samples before I do, the dirty buggers. Anyway, so they would have got the 1660 Ti, tested it themselves so they can evaluate it to know how many to purchase. And they've seen, oh, this thing's only like maybe 10% slower on average than Vega 56. It's 30% cheaper. We're not going to sell. Like, they would know how much Vega 56 stock they've got. They may have tens of thousands of cards or thousands. And it just so happens that it was the Air Boost model, which was like a mining card. That's pretty much why MSI produced that. So they would have ordered a crap ton of those things to sell them to miners. The mining collapse happened. And now they've just been slowly selling these cards. And yeah, they know that this card is going on sale on this date. They have
basically kill it.
They have an inventory of these Vega 56 cards they've got to get rid of. So they do a fire sale. Otherwise, it's a write-off. It's a loss.
Yeah.
So, because they've purchased these cards. So that's what that was about. And then AMD caught wind of these purges of Vega 56 cards, and they used it to their advantage to sort of spoil the 1660 Ti release, and kind of led on that, hey, I don't think they said it. Some people got emails directly from AMD, which we didn't, which is annoying. So I don't know what they said in those emails, but a few reviewers were really, really pissed off because AMD led them on and made sure that in the conclusion of their review, they let viewers know that Vega's been price dropped. So that's what I heard from a couple of US guys, but I haven't seen the email, so I can't comment directly. If I got an email from AMD and they pretty much said that it was an official price cut, I would have torn them a new one in yesterday's video. But I didn't have that information, so... yeah, I mean, I don't have any really harsh opinions of that, because that's just... It's a company being a company. They're trying to sell their product. And
yeah, it's unfortunate a few people seem to get
a
bit more sucked into that.
I mean, what are you getting sucked into, really? Because if you got a Vega 56 card for $280 or whatever, then you did get a good buy.
Yeah.
I'd still argue that for the same price, Vega for me is not a clear buy, because the 1660 Ti just uses... I know you can undervolt and all that, but that's a whole painful thing to get into, really. I'll probably touch on it in a moment. A few people... I said to Tim, it kind of cracks me up, the whole undervolting thing. And I still want to explore it with the Radeon 7. And yeah, you can undervolt. It does improve efficiency, and it can be quite dramatic depending on how good your card is, because an undervolting thing is a silicon lottery type deal. But all the AMD fanboys go mental at us because we don't undervolt Vega to test out-of-the-box performance. And it's just a click of the button, so you should do it. It's like, well, there's many click-of-the-button things that you can do to optimize processors and GPUs, but we're trying to do out-of-the-box experience. But it's really funny that some of the more passionate AMD fans in the community will attack us and advocate for testing Intel CPUs with the official memory spec. It's, testing the Core i9 9900K with DDR4 3200 or 3400 or whatever you like is misleading, because that's overclocking and running out of spec. So you should test Ryzen with 2933 and Intel with 2666. The reason we don't do that is because it's foolish. We don't test with DDR4000 either, because that's ridiculously expensive. We test with the memory that makes the most sense, and that's usually around DDR4 3200, 3400. That's the most cost-effective stuff. You guys buy that, and it's designed and guaranteed to run at that spec. So it's kind of funny that we have to go and test Intel CPUs with a certain type of memory at the official spec, but then we have to test Radeon GPUs by effectively undervolting them, which is a form of, well, overclocking, essentially.
Yeah.
So anyway, that whole thing annoys me a bit. Someone said to me, why is the Radeon 7 series lackluster? Radeon 7's not a terrible product, but I would have an RTX 2080 every day of the week over it. And the reason it's lackluster is because it's not as efficient, performance isn't quite as good, and yeah, if you do manually undervolt the card and give it a bit of a tune-up, then yeah, it can be better. I haven't explored that myself, but I've heard it can be. But you can also tune up the RTX 2080, so it's like, well, anyway, maybe not to the same degree, but it's still already ahead, so a bit weird, that one. But yeah, lackluster due to power consumption, which you can possibly do something about. It's lackluster because it's not available in anything but a reference card, and the reference card's loud, and yeah, you can adjust the fan profile and you can undervolt it to correct that. But we don't review cards on how you can fix them. We review them on how you get them out of the box. And people also really simplify this, like using Wattman and stuff like that. Like, I don't know what I'd like to hear from you guys on this, actually, because I've found that overclocking graphics cards, undervolting that, it's just a pain in the backside that you don't really want to deal with, because if Wattman crashes or the system crashes or whatever, it reverts back to defaults. You have to go and put all your stuff back in, and it's just annoying. And I don't think you should review the products like that's the out-of-the-box experience. I feel like that's misleading.
Yep.
I think it'd be good for us to do separate content where we maximize what the Radeon 7 can do, and I intend on doing that. But to treat that as the general experience, why don't AMD undervolt Radeon 7? Well, probably a few reasons. One is, again, as I said, it's a silicon lottery type thing. They know what their yields are like. They know the tolerances they can mass produce these within. So if they could mass produce these things all heavily undervolted and running super efficient, they bloody well would. But I've got two Vega 64 reference air cooled cards. One of them undervolts like a champion, and actually I got that card second. The first one I got is crap. You undervolt it a little bit and it's just instabilities creeping everywhere. It starts blue screening, crashing, all kinds of things. But the other one, I can take it all the way down basically, and it drops some, I can't remember the exact wattage it drops off, but it's significant, and it runs cooler and it's better. It's like, wow, this is a pretty cool card. But the other one's garbage. So yeah, if AMD could run them all at much lower voltages, well, they would. So for AMD fans to just say that reviewers should heavily undervolt the cards and that's how they should test them, well, they're fans of AMD, aren't they? They've got an agenda and they just want you guys to buy cards or whatever. I don't know, it's a bit... It just obviously makes sense to test a product how you guys are going to buy it. And then if you want to go tweak it and tune it because it has potential there, then that's a whole different ballgame. You want to be looking at overclocking guides and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a question here from Scooby Doovy. Does Hardware Unbox ever plan on doing a TressFX Pure Hair versus Hairworks subjective quality, objective performance comparison? I would love to do this, but the problem is that there's no game where you can turn on TressFX and then turn that off and turn on game.
Well, yeah, that's why I was sort of like, like.
So, and it's very difficult to get a game where, for example, right, Pure Hair is used in Rise of the Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
It can't be done.
So I would think if there's a game where a similar hair implementation is used, as in like maybe there's another female character with a similar hairstyle and that's used for, hair works in a different game, then that would be sort of the closest you could get.
Yeah, which would still be absolutely useless. You'd need a dozen games using one type and a dozen using the other. You'd have to evaluate, that dozen games to see, okay, what are the better examples? Then what are the better examples here? Then how do they compare?
Yeah.
But come on, guys. We know the quality of certain things in games. They can vary massively. So you can get terrible Hairworks implementations and you can get good ones. But there aren't many examples of either, especially at TressFX.
Yeah, so I think for that you'd almost need like someone to develop a simulator for you,
and then
you could enable each of them in.
And then it's also like the performance hit on, AMD and Nvidia GPUs and vice versa. And
yeah,
it'd be awesome to be able to do, but you just can't.
I mean, what I've seen personally is that in a game like Shadow of the Tomb Raider, turning not Hairworks, Pure Hair, and in Rise of the Tomb Raider as well, Pure Hair on and off it has a performance hit, but it's respectable.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't seem to be significantly different on AMD or Nvidia cards. Even Pure Hair seems to tax AMD cards more still. But the issue is that, again, in those games, Pure Hair or TressFX isn't used all that much. Mm-hmm. Whereas in a game like the other games, there's more utilization. I think The Witcher is probably the best comparison example because it's not used extensively in that game. It's aside from the hair.
That game went through massive Hairworks patches and tuning.
Yeah, that's right.
And now you can adjust it quite a bit because that was an absolute mess when that game launched. The Hairworks, you turned Hairworks and that was unplayable.
Yeah, so I think from what we've seen so far in games that do use each of these things, that Pure Hair seems to have less of a performance impact and seems to not affect NVIDIA or AMD GPUs particularly harshly in any situation, especially when looking at the Witcher comparison, because it was a disaster in The Witcher.
It was very bad, I remember.
Whereas at the same time, it's really hard to make a direct comparison because...
Well, Tomb Raider, for example, which had TressFX, the original reboot, that ran better on AMD GPUs initially. However, they didn't have to modify the game at all. I'm pretty certain I'm correct on this. At all for NVIDIA to then optimize their drivers for TressFX to have the same kind of performance.
I'm not sure on that.
I tested and followed the development closely, so unless I'm missing some information or recalling incorrectly, whereas with The Witcher 3, they had to heavily patch the game multiple times for it to work well on AMD GPUs.
Yep.
So, and I think that's the whole why people have this problem with GameWorks, because I'm trying to think now of an AMD sponsored title that ran like garbage on NVIDIA GPUs that wasn't solved through NVIDIA just releasing a display driver.
Yeah.
Because like Forza Horizon 4, for example, Kepler was garbage off the bat. And then NVIDIA just released a new driver and it was fixed. So do we know of an AMD sponsored title that was absolutely garbage on NVIDIA GPUs that had to be solved by the developer?
Yeah, I don't think there's any real examples of that. But at the same time, there's not a lot of AMD specific features aside from TressFX.
Well, yeah.
So I mean, my opinion just from the games that I've seen is that Pure Hair runs better. But again, I would really like to see a game that uses Pure Hair to the extent that other games that use the GameWorks equivalent.
Yep.
So yeah, that's what we've been able to go on at this point. So that's why I came to the conclusion in Metro that potentially that game would have run better had they used Pure Hair or TressFX. Well, Pure Hair's not available. That's Square Enix's custom work on that for the Tomb Raider games, but certainly TressFX seems to, in the games that we've had so far, not have a significant performance. And it's also used in many... I believe it's used in many console-exclusive games.
Okay.
That use hair simulation. They use effectively TressFX because it's an AMD GPU in there, I believe.
Yeah, well, I didn't even explore Hairworks in Metro, so I didn't do any performance testing or whatever. It was off by default, so I left it there. And I didn't really have time to test it out. So would have been interesting too. I'm glad you did. Someone had to go back and do it. Somebody asked, I can't find it, way back, do you guys have plans for a merch store?
Yeah, we do actually. But more on that soon, probably.
Okay, leave that one for now.
More on that soon.
Here we go. When are you guys going to make a hub merchandise? Well, Tim's working on it, and he's making some good inroads there. So we'll have more possibly next month to report on, but at some point relatively
still working
soon.
Through that, but
yep.
People have been asking for how long now? a long time.
Well, we said it wasn't going to happen till this year. Last year we said that'll be something for next year, and yeah, we're getting there.
Yep.
So that'll be good. What else? Any other good questions here, or do we sort of answer some Discord questions?
Yeah, no, I think we've covered most of the stuff that we wanted to cover. Yeah, obviously we'll be filming the Q&A in a moment. It's probably a bit too late to get the questions in because we kind of finalised that. So, but if you've got any questions, you may as well answer them now.
Yeah, if you have any questions, drop them in here and we'll get to them. There was a heap of things that I was going to talk about, but can't really recall. I sort of rushed to Tim's because I got held up a bit this morning. But yeah, I'll have another shed vlog soon. Actually, while I remember, I'll post a picture in Discord. I took a photo this morning of where I'm at, so I'll do that quickly. But yeah, this week I want to work on some pretty cool benchmarks. I want to test Intel and AMD CPUs in games using Radeon 7 and the RTX 2080. I think that'd be interesting. I've been meaning to do that for ages, actually. I'll whack this in random. What have you got planned for the week?
At this stage, it is finishing off the Metro Exodus DLSS investigation, then probably looking at Far Cry New Dawn, as well as the Q&A stuff. That's probably my week. And then hopefully soon we'll have LG reached out about a whole bunch of monitors.
Yeah,
that they want tested. They're sending out 7 monitors.
That's insane.
Some of which are being used for a specific content piece, testing their GPU, testing their monitors with FreeSync. The other thing was, and some of them are new enough to be worth reviewing. So 7 monitors from them. They just keep adding to it every time. I'm like,
it started with 4, didn't it? It was a pretty big number to begin with.
It started with 4. They wanted to send out 4, and then they're like, "Oh, we've got this one. Would you be interested in looking at that?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And they're like, "Oh, what about this one as well?" And it's like, "Oh, yeah, sure, why not?" So it's up at 7 now. Could be as many as 10 by the next time that I check in with them. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, Jardath and Neem said shed vlog. Yep. So I'll get on that. I just posted some pictures in random. So you can grab them there if you're interested. What else? Yeah, I don't even know what I'm doing this week really, so I'll work it out.
Yeah, just about filling the usual. The Q&As are taking up some of the schedule this week.
Yeah, so I'm going to spend a bit of time benchmarking. There's a few, like I said, few interesting tests I want to do. And yeah, I'll play around with the Radeon 7 as well. But yeah, I'm a little uninterested in that one at the moment. I'd like to see some AIB cards before we...
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those things where the product, you're sort of doing more in-depth testing on a product that you're unlikely to recommend anyway. Because it's still, you'd get an RTX 2080 over it.
Yeah, and there's just so many RTX 2080 options. And I think it's out of... I think it's not even in stock anyway. The Radeon 7. I don't think you can buy it. So
yeah, that
kind of takes the fun out of playing around with it if you guys can't buy it. But yeah, anyway. The quad-core CPUs in 2019, yes, that is going to go up. Probably not this week, next week, but just the week before I go away on holidays for a week. But yes, I'm going to do some quad-cores in 2019. So... not 100% sure what I'll be testing in that one, but I think probably the Core i5 7600K will have to make an appearance.
Yep.
Probably chuck in a fairly modern quad-core Ryzen CPU, and yeah, it'll be similar, to, I suppose, to the video I did in 2017. But I'm interested to see how that one goes.
Yep, should be interesting.
Yeah, I imagine the Radeon 7 does, well... I don't know. How much performance does it gain? I'm sure people have done testing, but...
I think Gamers Nexus was putting theirs on water, weren't they?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm talking about an undervolt. How much
an undervolt, yeah.
Does it gain there? But anyway, I'll look into that and I'll find out. But I'm sure plenty of people have covered it already, but yeah, I haven't had a chance to check it out. Anything else?
Yeah, not really. Not much else has been happening, really. I've been playing Metro Exodus myself. It's pretty enjoyable.
Okay.
Good game. I'd recommend it.
I've just been benchmarking and shed building. That's my life. So... yeah. But yeah, it looked like it was a fun game for sure.
Yep. Although it is one of those games where it's like you can be looking somewhere and be running at 80 FPS, then you turn it and it's running at like 30 to 40 FPS.
Well, that's what I said in my benchmark video that, yeah, it fluctuates massively. Which
Yeah,
games,
it's all about the draw distance on that one.
yeah, which games tend to do that, but it seems a little more extreme in that title than other titles.
Yeah, it just depends where you are on the map. Personally, even though I said in my video not to run GameWorks, I am actually using the GameWorks features because I think it looks better, personally. And I've got a high-end card, so I can take the performance hit. So I personally do use them. So, yeah.
So I think Sal's saying liquid cooled, it can do 2.2 gigahertz and it gains like 15%. Like, for me, that's pretty underwhelming.
What does it run at normally? Like, what are the normal sort of frequencies that you get out of it?
I can't remember the exact frequency it operates at under load. It was in my video, like 1800 maybe off the top of my head. I honestly don't recall much Radeon 7 stuff. I know the by default it's meant to be running, I think it has a base clock of 1400 and then it's meant to be running at 1750. I think mine was about 1800 under load.
Okay.
But yeah, 15% performance gain for a massive overclock like that. I mean, you could probably squeeze 10% pretty easily out of an RTX 2080, which would still have it ahead by using heaps less power. I'll look into it. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's...
It's just not a card that is going to be recommended to is heavily price cut. And it doesn't seem like the sort of card that can be heavily price cut.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's what Sal's saying. 2200 is only a 22% overclock. So, I mean, a 15% boost off that is about the most you could hope for, especially on average. And I can't remember in my tests now, but how it was it was 5% or something like that slower on average than an RTX 2080.
Yeah, something like that.
Can't remember. So I mean, yeah, it's a lot of work to try and get it just ahead, if that.
Yep.
Yeah. So probably said all we need to say about that one.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Well, we're going for about an hour now.
Yeah, I think we've covered everything. I haven't really seen... I don't think I've missed any questions. So that's pretty much that. Yeah, there's nothing really exciting coming up, I don't think.
No, I mean, there's been the rumours of the other GTX 16 series products. Not that we've heard anything really on that, but supposedly that's coming soon. So that'll probably be the next big... Is it big? Does it count as big?
Well, I thought the 1660 Ti was pretty awesome.
Yeah, so okay, let's say that's the next big launch for GPUs. Probably won't see CPUs for a while.
Yeah, I mean, if we get a GPU that makes the RX 580 at $200 completely pointless, I think that'd be awesome.
Yep.
Not for AMD.
Not for AMD, but for buyers who want more performance at the same price.
Yeah, for guys who want to build budget gaming rigs, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's that. And I think, I mean, there's other stuff coming up in other like the Intel is releasing 8-core laptop CPUs next quarter, so that should be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they're replacing the 6-core with 8 cores. So we should see a nice performance improvement there. I'm still working on getting the rest of the RTX series for laptops into test.
Mm-hmm.
I've tested the 2070 Max-Q. MSI sending out a laptop with the 2080 Max-Q, and I believe Asus for the 2070, so the non-Max-Q version. And then it'll just be about filling in the gaps for all the other stuff as sort of that comes out. Probably won't do too many laptop tests, but certainly, I wanted to test those new GPUs. And I want to test them before those new laptop CPUs come out, because when you can test the GPU upgrade with the old laptop with the same CPU, it gives you just the GPU. Obviously, you want to compare apples to apples as much as possible. If you get both the CPU and GPU in the same thing, it's hard to pin it down.
Yep.
Whereas just for interest's sake, it's interesting to know, how much has the GPU specifically improved it in the same design. So, yes.
Luke asked, so NVIDIA is playing nice with Hub again. Not 100% sure what's going on with NVIDIA. Our contact there has reached out a few times about various unimportant things, and we've replied, and it's all been fine there. They seemed pretty eager to make sure that we did get an AIB GTX 1660 Ti in time for our review. Not sure what they were going to do about it if we didn't. But they haven't created any roadblocks for us. We're definitely not blacklisted. They provided the driver, so we had to get the driver from NVIDIA. They provided that to us very swiftly. So, I don't know. It's a very weird situation, that one, but seems fine. Bootman says, Ryzen 5 2400G, still great for budget gaming. And then Neem says the 2200G has always been a better budget APU, which is true. Yeah, I mean, it's still a decent choice, really, especially if you only want to spend about $100 to get a CPU and a GPU solution. There's really no better way to do it if you're buying new. So yeah, it's fine.
Yep. Sal here says 9th gen mobile i7s have no hyperthreading. You have to buy the i9 to get hyperthreading with 9th gen. The i7s are 6.6. They're not 6.6, they're 8.8, according to the Intel specification document. The i7 9750H, so that'll be the new version of the 8750H. That goes from 6 cores and 12 threads to 8 cores and 8 threads, apparently. The i9's are 8.16. So it's similar to the desktop lineup where the 9700K is 8.8 as well. They just have completely gotten rid of the 6 cores. So the Core i5s are quad cores as opposed to 6 cores like they are for the desktops. So yeah, I'll be interested to see how the 8.8 performs. And that's not a rumor. That is from the apparently the official Intel specs in their compliance documents. And yeah, those will be coming out in the second quarter. So yeah, should be new gaming laptops soon. It puts them in an interesting position because I would say, you know, a lot of the new laptop designs right now are just exactly the same as the previous design.
Yeah, that's not surprising.
With the new GPU. It'd be interesting to see what they do with the 8th gen, whether we get new designs. And potentially it's worth just holding off and to get that extra performance on the CPU because most laptops are CPU bottlenecked, especially at 1080p.
So another one here. Lewis says, when you give Intel a poor review, is Hub blacklisted? Intel's another weird one. We basically don't have an Intel contact and haven't really ever had one. So about a year ago, someone from Intel USA was sending us samples. That was really for TechSpot. Then that sort of stopped. They moved on to a different position in the company. There's no one really from Intel in Australia that handles review samples. They have that Spectrum company that we've talked about before quite poorly.
Ah, yes, Spectrum.
So the whole Intel thing's a bit of a mess for us. So often we just get Intel CPUs through the board makers. That's how we've done it for the last few releases.
Yeah, I mean, my 9900K that I use in my test rig is from Intel themselves. So it's not like they don't contact us. They're just slow at getting stuff out. Don't really keep us in the loop. Obviously, you would have seen we didn't review the Xeon W processor.
Oh, God.
Didn't get sampled that at all.
I'm not upset about that.
So, yeah, I mean, that seems like a very niche product. But, I mean, yeah, it just seems like there's really no interest on their part to make any effort to work with us, which is their right. They're free to do whatever they want. We still get the CPUs fine. Same with NVIDIA. I mean, but again, NVIDIA still seems to want to work with us. So, yeah.
Luke says, how reliable is user benchmark? That's like a benchmark aggregation site, isn't it?
That's the one where it seems people use that more for rumors than they do for actual benchmarking.
Right. I don't, follow it at all. So I think that's
pretty much it.
Pretty much everything on this one.
Let's go get some Nando's.
Yeah, gotta get some lunch.
Are you excited for your Nando's?
I'm starving. I'm really struggling at the moment. But yeah, some food will be good. Thanks to everyone who's continued to support us and who's new to the Patreon account, Discord chat and all that. And yeah, hopefully you enjoy the content that's going to come up on the channel over the next month before we see you again. I might make Tim come out to my place next month if the internet holds up.
Yep, let's do that. Let's lock it in.
We'll lock it in. But anyway, we're going to go get some lunch. So hopefully you guys have a good day, night, morning, wherever you are. And hopefully you get some Nando's too.
Yep. And we're no second stream this month, as we
No, there won't
mentioned
be. Yeah, there will only. Yeah, we'll just be doing the Q&A, and then I've got to head off early, some family stuff. So.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry about that. Anyway.
Oh, too bad. We'll see you next month.
See you guys.